Hello, welcome to AR Highlights with AWE Asia 2023. I'm Stacy, and today I'm honored to be with our guest, Leticia Jauregui, who is at Meta. Leticia is actually the head of global education partnerships and gave a fantastic panel yesterday about kind of the future of immersive education and the metaverse. And so today we are welcoming her here to share a bit more about that. Before we get into it, Leticia, could you give a quick introduction of yourself and kind of your role at Meta?
Of course. Thank you so much, Stacey. We're so excited to be here at AWE Asia. It's been a couple of very engaging days with amazing partners. And at Meta, what we're trying to do is really help seed the ecosystem for immersive learning, understand how immersive content in augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality can help really transform education, engage students, lead to better educational outcomes, improve attention spans and motivation, and really be a tool for educators that are looking to improve education for their students. And we're very excited to have brought a few partners that we're doing amazing work with, and we really think about the ways in which the content, the training, the skills really play a role in developing the future of education in the metaverse.
That's very exciting. Can you share a bit more about what you think that future vision looks like and kind of what do you think are the core steps or stages to getting there?
Of course. I think obviously metaverse technologies are still a ways away, but we're already seeing really positive results with some of these experiments and with a lot of the exciting content that's out there. So the first thing is making sure that we're providing the right type of skills to educators, the right type of tools, and that they're getting their questions answered so that they can leverage headsets and software in a classroom setting, and really thinking about how different subjects are ideally suited for leveraging immersive technologies. So, for example, if you're thinking about geographic barriers to teach certain subjects, because virtual reality can help take students anywhere. They don't need to be able to move physically. Simulation and being able to manipulate that information. So some of our partners like Prisms VR is teaching math in virtual reality, and that's really helping students understand how to grasp algebra and geometry concepts a lot more successfully. And really it's about how the students can learn more effectively. The educator can leverage these tools as a new modality of training. And so the final piece will be how do we make sure that this is built in an equitable and accessible way? And so we're investing a lot in making sure that we bring students along, that we bring different regions along and learn and understand how we can decrease certain barriers, be it around access to headset or hardware, be it around the skills that are needed, or even around language accessibility and content. And I think that's where a lot of AI tools are very exciting because they're going to allow for that accessibility to be improved.
That's a lot of new topics and focuses. Of those things that you mentioned, whether that's kind of global expansions or kind of feature expansions, if you could pick one thing that Meta's most focused on right now, what would that be?
So definitely, I think the thing that we're most interested in is how these technologies can be leveraged at scale. So what do we need to do in terms of our hardware, our software, to make sure that everyone can be using it in a classroom setting, can use it for training, can use it for connection, and that leads to better outcomes.
And how do you go about that? Like, what kind of partnerships is Meta working with to achieve that vision?
We were excited to welcome 3 partners here yesterday at AWE Asia. So for example, we're working with partners like Zoe. Zoe does no-code environments, and so you can use it in a classroom setting to do experiments with your students, to build worlds, to build mini games, and it really gives educators tools to very easily start to embed this in the classroom for different subjects. We also had IMD here. They're a very well-known business school. They're doing incredible things, leveraging these technologies to teach some of these business skills, to provoke kind of new thinking in how you can, for example, develop leadership capacities or public speaking capacities, etc., with immersive technologies. And then finally, we had Unity. They are an incredible learning partner. We launched a program called Create in VR last year, where we trained educators on how to leverage VR technologies in a classroom setting. And it's been so exciting to see how we learn from them. We understand the new use cases and what can happen, and really how this curriculum can impact so many disciplines, so many kinds of students, so many different ages, so it's very exciting.
That is exciting. What about going forward? Are there any other kind of partnerships coming down the line or things that you hope to be able to partner with in the future to kind of further move along this progress?
Yeah, so I don't think, we know that we won't and can't build it alone. So we continue to build new partnerships. I think there's really exciting developments in how you, for example, partner with organizations such as Victory XR that's building a digital twin campuses of universities and really focused on how do you allow accessibility for rural students or students who can't go into a campus even after a kind of the COVID pandemic. How do you build capacities with partners like Labster to develop a lab capabilities? And so instead of having to spend millions of dollars in building high quality laboratories for schools or for universities, you can build them in VR and students can then do reactions multiple times, can learn kind of with hands-on activities. And similarly, how can you build AR learning effects that allow you to maintain, for example, certain components of textbooks relevant, and you don't have to reprint these textbooks so that images can still convey new information so that you can keep actualizing the learning opportunities, and the educators can be the ones who are also helping mold that content. And so I think we're going to see more and more opportunities as time goes by. As the technology matures, obviously, I think it will also allow us to better kind of achieve some of these goals. And I think the intersection with AI allows us to think about personalized learning, automated kind of learning plans, and everything from like how do you bring a non-playing character to life using AI and teaching history. And so you can bring different historical figures back into reality and take them and travel in time and space to learn about different historical moments. So the sky's the limit, I think.
You just beat me on my next question. I was just going to ask, how is AI transforming kind of this whole immersive education space, but also specifically content creation?
Yeah. So we're very excited to see how some of these partners are transforming kind of 3D asset generation. So Zoe is thinking about how do we expand the library capacities for any educator to then be able to put in a text prompt and create that 3D digital asset that they can bring into that learning environment. How can you transform really learning design? So as you're thinking about instructional learning and the learning path of the students, how do you leverage AI to make it more interactive, to make it more personalized? And as well, how are other ways in which we can integrate, for example, a language translation so that you can really speak to different students in different places? Something that's very exciting about VR is obviously the capacity for students anywhere in the world to be interacting together.
Right.
And so we're seeing some interesting examples around language learning, for example, where you have students in different and opposite sides of the world learning around a similar contextual environment. And so leveraging AI for a lot of these learning opportunities, I think, will be very exciting.
That is exciting. What are some challenges of kind of this being leveraged, and kind of what are any risks either with the AI kind of creating this content or any other kind of barriers to a smooth user experience when it actually gets to the students?
Of course. I think we're focused a lot in making sure that we're asking the right questions and more questions currently than we have answers. So we're working with incredible researchers to really look into all aspects of this technology and how that may impact in the classroom, both positively and negatively. What are the risks? What are the challenges? And to make sure that we are building responsibly, safely, that we're taking privacy considerations into mind. So and we're doing really interesting things in that space, and partners are really pushing kind of the technology to make sure that it's built for the best outcome possible. Similarly, I think in AI, there's a lot of work happening to make sure that it's implemented in a safe way. And I think something that we're also focused on is how do we develop professional development capacities for educators so that they understand how to leverage these technologies. At the end, it's not about the technology, it's about how we use that technology in our case in education, but in general, how do we then apply it and build the future that we want to see? Do
you find that when you're trying to kind of educate the educators about this this technology and how they can use it? Do you find that there's a lot of barriers in that, or does it seem to be a pretty smooth, the education space seems to react positively and quickly to the things that you're offering?
I think historically education is a sector that is constantly evolving and learning because of the social nature of learning activities. I think we have a good opportunity with immersive technologies. Obviously, it's something that's going to take time.
Right.
There's certain educators that are very keen. Obviously, as we move to younger generations, it's a lot easier to embed some of these technologies because they understand them from the beginning. In other instances, it takes a little longer. But really, I think it's meeting the educators where they're at, making sure that we're taking into account their concerns. So what are friction points within the classroom? What are the challenges with students? Is it about engagement? Is it about maintaining their attention span? Is it about the learning outcomes? And really crafting it in a way where it complements and allows the teacher to have more tools to better train their students. And how do we complement also what the students are interested in and allow those students to become a part of that learning journey as well.
And when you're able to do all of those things, really tailor the services and the learning to the individual needs of each classroom and each educator, do you find that there are still any other barriers to adoption or any common reasons or concerns that you come across?
Yeah, I think obviously there's a lot of considerations around hardware. So you have to have access to the hardware itself. The price has been coming down, but it still is an investment. You need to have the ability to then incorporate that into the classroom. So connectivity and different considerations. So we're really trying to learn and understand how we can improve that to make sure that we're closing accessibility and equity gaps, to make sure that we're bringing kind of different institutions along, learners along. And I'm excited that we're seeing really positive responses from different types of education institutions in very different environments, and where it's leading to positive change. And once an educator sees what's happening in the classroom, and we have like incredible examples in Ohio and Milwaukee, and once an educator sees what's possible, I think it inspires others to try it out, to test it, and then that will help it expand.
Right. Speaking of different educational institutions, is there a particular kind of student population that you are targeting or you think this is most beneficial for, or a particular type of educational institution? For example, elementary school, college students, continuing education?
We really are focused on educators in general. So we are looking at structured and unstructured learning. We're looking at high school settings and post-secondary settings. We're looking at continuous and vocational training providers. I think there's really interesting ways in which these technologies can help different types of audiences. And we have a partner called Florio, for example, that's working with neurodiverse children with neurodiverse capacities. And they're focused on adolescents that need to understand how to leverage these technologies to be better equipped to go to school, to learn, to go through career training and eventually get to career opportunities. And they're having incredible results because they can control what you're seeing in headset to avoid sensory overload. You start kind of adding layers and complexity and features that mean that it's like a slow introduction into how this works, and it's really having incredible results. We're seeing how the headsets are used with students with specific learning needs. We're seeing how it's used in lower income settings. So I think really there's very promising results across the board. For vocational training, I think there's really exciting opportunities. So for example, Georgian College is teaching students that are in veterinary school about bovine management without the need for cattle.
That's very helpful.
It allows for new kinds of learning in medical settings. I think we've seen really, really good results with the ability to learn faster and be able to repeat some of these tasks many more times without kind of additional cost.
Right.
So I think really it depends on what the use case is. And we got a really good question yesterday during the panel, which was, are there moments when you shouldn't be using the technology for the technology itself? And I do think that this is not kind of something that we're expecting will be used for everything, everywhere, kind of all at once. But it is, how do you complement certain parts of the learning journey? What are the pieces of the journey that are hands-on and that require that type of experiential learning, where kind of VR will be ideally suited? What are parts of the learning where using augmented reality, you could add contextual layers of information that will inform the student to learn kind of better and be able to think critically about a challenge? So I think there's different considerations, and we're hopeful that that's how it's being developed.
Kind of on a more, shifting the subject a little bit to a more geographical consideration, you're currently the head of Global, and we're currently based right now in AWE Asia, Singapore, and I read that you're also from Mexico. I was just curious, do the partnerships or kind of the focus of Meta's kind of global immersive education branch, does it shift at all from region to region, or is there any particular like difference in pain points that people are feeling, or kind of capabilities that that you can provide in between the different regions?
Yeah, I think there's some considerations that are similar across the board and others that are different. So something that we're focused on kind of globally is making sure that these learning opportunities are really connected with economic opportunity. So the end result that we want is to enable all of these students to have better economic outlooks. And that we're seeing through different mechanisms. So for example, through training in augmented reality across Latin America, what we're seeing is students who had never considered a career in something technological learn about augmented reality skills and are now being able to partner with companies to help them build effects. They're working with government institutions to help embed augmented reality capacities into different procedures and different parts of their training. And that's given them a totally different outlook on what they could do in the world.
Amazing.
We're now seeing that Latin America has some of the top creators in the world. Similarly, Asia has incredible creators, some of which are here at AWE. And so we're really trying to figure out in each region how we can complement what the educational system needs and what the future looks like. We also have different capacities in different places. So wherever we have hardware support, then how do we enable adoption of hardware? If there is no hardware yet, what are we thinking of in the future? What are the ways in which we can start to develop capacities? What are the challenges so that no one really is challenged to adopt these technologies in the future?
That makes a lot of sense. Well, as a last question, what do you hope that attendees here at AWE Asia took away the most from both your session yesterday as well as this expo overall?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Lots of good takeaways, I hope.
Yes,
but
I think there have been really, really good takeaways. For me, something that was striking is how we need to think of paradigm shifts. Regardless of whether we're thinking about education, we're thinking about how we do business, we're thinking about how we build any kind of a process using immersive technologies. I think there's been a paradigm shift if we think about the overlays of these immersive technologies, artificial intelligence, and really what is that going to offer the future, right? So I loved, there was a talk with Tailspin, and they're doing some incredible things with VR training and immersive learning. And they were talking about how we used to have to sacrifice something, right? So you could think of like less time, less money, or more quality, but you couldn't think of all of the things at the same time. And I think with these new tools, we won't necessarily have to sacrifice those considerations, but we're going to have to change how we think about our processes. We're going to have to change how we think about learning. So it's not going to be about just answering questions, because we're going to all be able to leverage some of these tools to answer quickly, but it's about the questions we're asking. It's about how we're framing those results into kind of new kinds of learning. So that paradigm shift in using these technologies, I think, is going to be very exciting.
I also think that's really very exciting, and I can't wait for when these paradigm shifts take place and are implemented more widely. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much, Leticia. This has been Leticia from Meta, and we are grateful that you're watching AR Highlights from AWE Asia 2023.